Or someone who's the IT guru?
Alright.
I didn't kick it out, did I?
I tied that one, so it would have been the wall under the
The
wall.
one on the wall, was it, Al? Sorry, I missed the whole question, Adrian.
We've had varieties that if you didn't water them every 3 or 4 days, they start to go to flower. Even though they had plenty of water when they were watered. So that's an issue.
So you're saying they went to flower not from photoperiodic day length?
No.
They were just in survival mode and they went
That's
straight
right.
to head.
That's
Like
right.
that's survival, yeah?
Yeah.
And what was the other section component of that question?
I was just saying that it's one of the things that the different varieties you've got to be aware of. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how little water it gets, just so long as it gets it.
Yeah.
And that was a Ukrainian variety that I particularly noted with that.
Okay. We had some infrastructure problems with some of our spray irrigation guys this year, and they didn't water them. I found that the crops were sown early before the real big hot. They had their roots down and they were fine.
Yeah.
It's the ones that you plant late that were struggling and coming away in the middle of the heat. You had to water them every bloody week. So it comes back, you know, it's common sense. You know, if you're in the middle of summer and it's bloody scorching and you haven't got a decent taproot down.
Yeah.
So we're actually planting earlier. We're going to be planting this month.
Yeah.
This stuff will come out of snow. Remember, they've been planting in the snow and frost. We've had it growing all winter in Queensland and New South Wales. So it is frost tolerant, like sunflowers. They've come from Russia as well. Remember, but we can get sunnies in really early. You don't have to wait for soil temperature to be 18 degrees for sorghum, sunflower, and corn. We can get this in earlier. So I'd like to see it in early before the heat.
I see a note in there showing there's been some, got up to 36 inches or 38 inches. What have you found in the seed? Yeah.
In the yield results of seed under different row spacing?
Yes.
Peter? I'm good at flicking, aren't I?
Yeah, what was the actual question?
The wide row spacing, 38 inch versus
Yeah, but what
For
about...
on seed yield.
Oh, okay. Row spacing is probably not so relevant as the actual plant density.
Yeah,
So when you sow your seed, you would probably, for a seed crop, you would sow it somewhere around the 50 viable seeds to the square metre.
Yeah.
Sitting in a tractor cab, it's a little bit hard to know.
This is a calibration factor.
Yeah.
You do the calibration in the shed.
Just a seed count, you know, we got all the formulas for that.
And you must know your field factor and you must know your germination.
The
And
seed count, germination, and then... Well, fibre is different. I would suggest seed, you can go wider and get away with it, whereas fibre, we don't want them all tight in a row. We want them actually far apart so they're more even. If there's got more chance of being close together, they compete too much with each other, and the best one will smother the other fella. Peter?
yeah, because I mean, row spacing is only relevant if you're going to sow in rows and if you're going to do something with the rows, in other words, inter-row cultivate. There's no other reason to have rows.
Weed control, or why would you go wide other than weed control reasons or planting reasons? Or moisture, like skip row on cotton.
So what do you sow with it? What size spacing do you sow with it?
For fibre we go small, narrow, 7 inch.
You want no branching when you're doing you want no branching. All
You want straight up. Yeah.
Well, when I was doing my work, I was doing 125 millimetres for fibre crops and double that for seed crops.
And reasons for that is because your seed crops aren't competing with the weeds as much as the fibre crops. Seed crops, the little fellas bang flower. Fibre crops, they'll smother. Full ground cover, they'll walk away from everything. So they're basically broad, normal broadacre farming. But we've got to get them out of the ground. We found that photo I showed you, we've got to do a much better way of getting them out of the ground. So we're looking at press wheels and depth control, not just sugar on that. Feed the chooks.
Well, one, if I could just add to this, there's one very critical factor is if your weed bank in the soil is flat weeds like radishes and mallows and any of these sort of things, they will suppress the hemp growth. So that's why I used to sow only in rows, and I would inter-row cultivate any seed crop if there was flat weeds there.
Right.
And that would set those weeds back and let the hemp rise. Now, once hemp starts growing, it'll out-compete everything.
Yeah.
But it's got to rise above that initial weed strike.
So we've got to have a clean, okay, that's fine, because we don't know what chemicals we can use for weed control.
Absolutely correct.
We're, thanks to RERDEC, and Alan might mention it later on the project, is that they are looking at new crops with weed control and getting some pesticide registrations. We've had to go and put some permits in, and there'll be some more permits coming through for herbicides we do know, like Treflan and a few others. You know, Canada's been using it for years.
Yeah.
You know, it's not, we're not Robert Scruzo.
No,
We've just got to get the right recommendation and tick the box and pay $350. Al.
I have a question. Given it's a very strong taproot crop,
Absolutely.
given that water plays a major part in terms of your productivity, if you fiddled around with break crops that are low in water use, just to try and build a recharge in the system, that maybe your crop of hemp and make use of?
I'll answer that by a different way. In Queensland, we talk about how many millimetres of moisture of soil we have to grow a crop. So, in fact, we found that we're not utilising the soil moisture enough. We actually got to crop it more. Because salinity, soil salinity is about water table rising. We're not actually sucking enough out. So I believe this is a great crop to suck moisture out and dry it out, which it needs, so that then can be recharged by, instead of having water running off the paddocks, you know, it's going in the soil. So it's almost the opposite.
Well, that's fair enough in that environment, but you know, given where you're looking at growing it in southern Australia, I'd imagine there'd be a whole lot of environments that are a lot drier than what you want.
So you're saying in a dryland farming environment,
Yep.
how would you increase the soil moisture?
I'm just wondering if anybody's fiddled with that.
Well, I'll ask a dryland farmer.
If you're growing it under irrigation, it's an irrelevant question.
That's not irrelevant, but
Well, it's not relevant, but
relevant,
that's the answer.
not as
Growing
much.
irrigation.
Whereas dryland,
Yeah.
it's a huge question.
Yeah, of course, yeah, absolutely.
Great difficulties growing it under dry land.
Yeah, I think there's limitations of it for dryland in Victoria. Unless, I mean, on the Hunter Valley there we've got 40-inch rainfall on the coast there on sand. The tea gardens there, and it just grew. Oh my God. I mean, that's where it grows in Holland. It sucks into the water table. It gets down into that shallow water table and it just goes. So that Tomago sands, tea gardens there where the water, they pump back with the shallow bores, once you got into that dry land, and all that CSI or AMP country, you know, through Bulladeel there, I could see hemp growing there coming out your ears. That's dryland. So we're thinking, you know, we've got an irrigation industry on the Hunter River, so in a flood year, on a wet year, they'll go, you know, belly up or badly, where the dry land down the road will go well, and the opposite, you know, in the wet years, in dry years, the dry land won't be as good, but the wet irrigation will be good. So, you know, we've got to look at all those things.
And one last question: how hard?
I'm sorry, Alan.
How hard seeded is it?
It's pretty good. It germinates pretty well, 100%. It's not like a lot of people worry about it being a weed. I don't see it as a weed. Anywhere we've been growing it, it's never become a weed. Tell me, Peter, how long have you been growing it? How many years? And we've never seen it come out because it'll germinate and grow. It's not going to be hard seed and hang around and keep coming back at you. You know what I mean? It'll fully germinate. Have you had any hard seed you've noticed, Fred? You haven't done it. You crush it, so you don't get those tests.
It doesn't affect me.
No. All the germ tests I've seen, it's all right at the door.
Regarding the soil condition, it's some sandy, dry and alkaline soil.
Sandy, alkaline,
and dry
land.
Dry near the coastline.
Yep.
Is that type of soil ideal to grow?
I don't know Victoria well. I'm a Sydney boy and moved to Queensland, and I go to Tassie and I sort of miss Mexico a lot. But you would need minimum rainfall, and I'm not going to tell you what it is, but I would say over 20 inches. But you've got to get it in summer. So if you've got coastal influence, I'm sure you've got pockets along the coast where there would be that humid coastal influence, and that's in the Hunter Valley where our farm is at Singleton. It's 20 inches. You go 10 miles down the road and it's 45, and it's on a lighter sandy soil. It's just that when Phil goes to Holland and sees those big flat, you know, where the Rhine comes down there and all that underground water where they get to feed all, for the water the population, That's where this crop does really well. And on peat, on that, some of that peaty soil. Sorry. What did I say?
20 inches.
20 inches. Help.
500.
500, that'll do. 500 mil, sorry, I'm the old school farmers. Sorry, I should.
Australia's got to be ambidextrous.
Got to be flexible. So, yeah. But I mean, yeah, if there were, I'm sure there's some pockets around, you know, whether it's up in the hills or, sorry?
John, the best crops that were grown in Victoria in the 90s and winters.
So what's the rate? Was that irrigated or dry?
Irrigated at dry.
So what? Bird chip.
Magnificent soil.
Soil. What are they? What are they?
They're
Well, they go for black, they go for black.
Good black.
yeah, good black. Heavy organic matter.
It doesn't like compaction, all right? So when you're farming on the black soil, you've got to be deep drip, or you've got to be controlled traffic and permanent beds, minimum tillage, because it hates compaction. With that taproot, you can plant as much as you like, but if you've got compaction, but it loves the black soil. It loves the organic matter. Yeah. So just, how are we going, Lynn?
Yeah, all right.
All right, I'm not moving the boat yet. So
John,
this is the, sorry?
There's another question.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
It's just regarding the pH. It's hemp like more acidic or more like.
It's like neutral to slightly acidic.
Okay.
So I don't know why would it handle alkaline or not?
Well,
We've grown it in
we
alkaline.
grew it all on 6.5.
6.5 is neutral to slightly acidic.
And what about the very windy condition? Somewhere is.
I thought this crop would fall over.
Yeah.
4 metres, 5 metres, and I saw a shed roof go off next door, and the crop did not even see it. Did not even see it. Didn't even notice it. So
the crops grown where there's no wind, fibre is not very good.
because it has
Where it's got a wind, the
All right.
fibre is.
Okay. In fact, adding to that, where we put so much fertiliser in, they grow so tall. This year, they actually started to lodge. When we left them there a bit late, they were falling over because they're a bit top heavy. But the first year we saw no lodging. The second year we saw a little bit, and that was more about we didn't get the header in there quick enough. But short crops, no. But the taller crops, I haven't seen lodging much, other than where we left the harvesting too late.
Yeah, well, I've seen lodging where it's lodged and then just grown, so you've got the engine.
Right, so that's what this slide's about. Whereas your normal crops, you've got to harvest a grain or a yield or something, it's the last 10% that gets you to harvest, all right? You can grow this crop and then it can fail in the last 3 weeks. Whereas this is like a fibre. So no matter what happens, you've always got something to harvest, no matter when it might crash and burn for any reason. So you will always have something to harvest rather than a failure, because the fibre is just like a grass paddock. It's growing. It just depends on how high it grows that determines the yield. So we're not waiting for a seed or a fruit or something at the end that could then be gone after 6 months' growth. So in terms of risk, it's very little.
John, have you done dual crops very much?
Planting together, companion planting?
No, as in let it grow very tall, harvest the seed off the top. We've designed our machine to harvest the seed off the top of the dual crop.
So that's what I mentioned earlier in that slide, that in Tassie, where we have seed crops, so you harvest the seed, there is potential, and they're doing it, to harvest the stubble and bag it and do whatever.
I processed a lot of canola stubble in Britain into an extremely good fibre. In fact, I've got some of it here.
So it is the stubble from a seed crop that you're using the hemp for?
No.
You're harvesting?
No, we have done it. We can do all.
I'm saying you harvest the seed, like a normal grain crop, and you can do something with the hemp stubble.
Yeah, even if it's short, which we see canola as short, we've also done it from the very top of a 3 metre crop.
What's canola?
A variety
Canola
of
variety. It was designed to be short so that ordinary headers can go through it. Because how are you going to take it off 3 or 4 metres? So we've designed our machine to take it off.
So what have you done there? Just got a front?
We cut it and you thresh it later. You cut it, move it to the inside, put it in a bag and fresh it later, and we process the stem as you go through.
Height has been the biggest problem in harvesting our fibre varieties because it just grows so well. We just keep planting it later and later. We've gone from December to January to February, and even though it's flowering in February, it still grows so bloody quick that it's just too high. So we've got to...
So how have you got your seed for your farmer for crops?
Well, that's
So
great
variety.
trouble. We're trying to get them short, so by planting them later, so closer to their flowering
Then
point.
you don't know what your yields are going to be like from a...
We've had up to a tonne a hectare of seed crop from the fibre seed varieties. This year I had mice, ate one crop, we windrowed another, and the rain and the shattered the third crop. So, it's farming, but harvesting is the biggest challenge. Tassie, they can harvest them, we're just not getting the yields as much as we'd like.
Conventional or rotary headers?
Both. We'll handle both. Just got to do some of the tricks on the header. So what we got is a crop, is stem, right? It's what we want. We don't want big ones, we want small ones, just want a crop. It's like a rainforest. You're walking through this crop and canopy, and then the leaf's all on the ground with this moss. So it has no commercial value. Sorry, it returned to soil, so it has a lot of value. All right, it's putting the fertiliser back in the soil. We're after the stem. We're after even thin stems, and it's a bulky product. And no matter what size it grows, you'll always have something to harvest, okay? So you don't get far. So there's two systems. Well, I'll talk about two systems. The old system was to make hay, okay? So you cut it green, windrowed it. These are all our machines. Windrowed it, let it retted or break down in the field a little bit, rake it, bale it into round bales, square bales, or what we do, we just forward chop it into a cotton module, okay? So you'll know what a cotton module is. Who doesn't? All right.
You in Victoria would, so...
You're in Mexico, I know. So, go to Griffith. They got your cotton there now.
Yeah, they do.
So, instead of a bale, a round bale, or a square bale, basically it's just a chaser bin with a chopper going into it, and you pour it into this big, like a semi-container with a compactor, and it just compacts it. So instead of carting air, you're carting, a 9-ton semi rather than a semi full of air. So it's just a compacted, heavy, big, long bale. That's what a cotton module is. They leave them in the paddocks and then they cart them to the mill, which is in within 100 kilometres. Even cotton can't cart much more than that.
So you're going to get, you're saying 9 tonne in a siege trailer when you press it?
Yeah. See, and that's compacted.
Yeah.
Imagine what it's like. Yeah. So the mill has to be near the crop.
How close?
We say 50 k's for us, because we're harvesting it. We got the mills, and we're paying for all the harvesting and the milling. So we're at the moment, our limit, economies of
So
scale.
you couldn't put it into bales in Victoria and ship it.
You could do anything. You just got to pay for it.
Yeah.
Someone's got to pay for it. If you could value add it and make a fortune out of it, go to town. If you can cart the module and go straight to a market, the module, you're saving money, not going to a mill.
Yeah,
Depends on where the market
So
is.
if you receive these bales from Victoria at the same price,
Up to the Hunter Valley.
yeah, you could still do something with it. Or does it deteriorate because of this?
It doesn't deteriorate at all.
No. So the 50 Ks is it has to be is your collection.
We're paying $4.50 a kilometre, so
You won't go beyond 50 Ks.
it just doesn't make economic sense, I don't think.
Okay.
And the cotton industry proves it, that they're within, some out west they go maybe 300 Ks at the max, but,
Yeah, the cotton industry in Griffith, they're just spending $20 million building a new gym because they don't want to travel with it.
carters. Yeah, it's all about carters.
All right, so unless I get someone near me.
So we're talking about an industrial crop, right? So we're talking trucks, we're talking big volumes, so we're not talking home, little, small industry, we're talking another industry out there that can do, make a change into this.
What can you get in a big square and a round bale way?
What?
Who can answer that one? I'm a stubble bales. I'm 3 foot by 3 foot round bale. Is that 3 3, maybe 4, maybe 2. Sorry, we're in feet, aren't we, all the time?
1.2 by 1.5.
All right, well, that is about 200 kilo. How does that compare?
Oh,
So how does that compare to what we normally...
Or what's normal?
Yeah, what's normal. But it's light, it's the light end.
Yeah, it's light.
It's the light end, all right? So I know when we were growing lucerne, we used to dump the bales, double compact them and export them. That was the only way you could justify it, by double compaction on the hay bale. So it's the same thing with this. We're carting air, remember? So it's one of the densities is 9 cubic meters to the ton. How about that? Okay.
How
So
many cubic metres a ton?
9.
9.
So this is the old system they use in Europe, and they've been using it. You can do that by hand, and that's the old system you can do by round bales and square bales. All right, that's one way. If you want to do it organic, we can do that organically. All right, no sprays, no nothing, all organic. Bang. The system that we're doing, and I know you won't, some of you won't like it, is, and that's just going back. That's your module, all right. That's your compactor that you pour it in, and that's your loader. Just load the truck now actually loads it in the field now. The chain bed truck backs in and can load it straight on without another machine. So that's your module being moved away. But this is the new system. We actually spray the crops standing. We've got a permit to use Roundup on it. Now, some of you won't like that, but I hate to say, 90% of all farmland is sprayed with Roundup. Whether you like it or not, all your wheat and rice and canola has had Roundup sprayed on your paddock somewhere. So that's just a reality check for everyone. So what we want to do is desiccate it in the field. So it's actually dead standing rather than green chop and alive. We're desiccating it standing. So ask me how we spray it. I'll either helicopter or we've got to get a big spray coop to come through and do that. And then we just come through. That's not the best photo. That should be that crop. Just chopped dry, straight in, baled and taken away. So what we're doing differently is we are drying it standing rather than on the ground haymaking. Does that make sense? So that's the difference of our technology, using standing crop, desiccated standing, and then chopped dry, just like forage harvesting corn.
Is it easier for the machines to harvest it that way?
We've imported Jaguar, your typical Jaguar class, good equipment with a special drum.
Yeah, but it'll be easier on the machines to cut it once it's dead.
Once it's dead, it cuts very well and blows. A bit dusty sometimes. And asthma, some people, I know one here that didn't like it because he had an asthma complaint. But we've now taken this to Europe, where they've been growing it for centuries, and we're sort of typical Aussies saying, give this a go. So they've got the cotton gear there, and they get subsidies. They don't give a damn. They'll just do it the old way until the cows come home because they're making a fortune. But if they can make a bit more money there with this system, they're now looking at it, they've imported it, they're spraying, they've actually got really good quality product there.
So what's the weight of that buck being?
9 tonnes.
9 tonnes.
9 tonnes.
How does the Roundup affect the crop?
Kills it.
Yeah,
leaves all fall off.
Does it make any difference from just cutting to leave it on the ground? Like, is it like...
Our Europeans who know how to grow hemp and know how to own the mill, that milled it for years, they are saying the quality of the stack is better than breaking it on the ground, because breaking in rain, that must be more uneven or something. He said the quality of the standing hemp desiccated was the best he's ever had. So he's done it again this year, and he's looking at scaling up how to do that. So that's our partners in Holland.
Just on that point, when you wreck it, you lose approximately 50% of your fibre straight away. Its effectiveness for textiles anyway.
Which, that way or
no,
anyway?
When it's lying on the ground.
Oh, you lose.
So you lose so much. In the best old-fashioned long-line textile mills, which were in Hungary, they managed to turn 15% of their grown crop into a textile.
So it just basically goes back in the ground. It's lost.
It's lost.
Like an inefficiency or waste.
It's inefficiency. It's been destroyed by the soil fungus and whatever.
I've seen it. When you walk through some of those crops, it's like a spider web. It's spider webby. It starts breaking down. So that's the EU $8 million machine, if you want the top class mill. So they basically, it's like silage from corn. This is a trommel, so it's a big spinning disc, and they're in these different compartments. He's got it all, it's all airtight now, it's in the whole shed, so that's the top shelf. That's about 10 tonne an hour in Europe, worth, you know, up to $8 million. You know, everything, all whistles and blows, and occupational health and safety. What we want to do to start off with is just have components, like on a truck, almost that they just bolt together, only need one of them, and have that transportable. Why not have a transportable mill? Take the mill to the farm, to the region. So that's something we'd like to develop.
Like hay harvesting or grain harvesting.
No, it's more like a grading, like a cleaner. Take the mobile cleaner to the farm.
So what's your first part of your...
You've got to, whatever they're coming in, if it's a hay bale or a module, in the cotton industry they just back the module in and just rips it off it. Here they feed it in with a forklift and it goes to a conveyor and blows it, it's all blown. And then there's trommels inside, so it separates.
My question is, what are you getting out of that?
They're separating it two lines. Right. One is the herd, one is the fibre. Simple as that. Okay. Then they put powder and hammer mills and everything else value adding down the road.
Where is this located?
This is in Holland, Dunagro. If you Google Dunagro, that's our sister company. They've just come out and set us up with the cheap and nasty Aussie version in Australia, which we would like to have that's portable.
Yeah, that's not portable. So you have to cut.
That is not portable.
But the one you're going to have to design it from scratch here.
Yes, we're designing it from scratch. All right, let's talk money. Sorry, Lynn.
That's all right.
This is Hunter Valley, all right? I haven't got your budgets, TPI can check me, but let's just keep. Let's say hemp versus lucerne versus silage versus sorghum. So price per tonne, we're paying $180 a tonne. Don't be greedy, call it 10 tonnes, all right? 10 tonnes at $180 a tonne is $1,800. Simple. Variable costs, $800 to $1,000 a hectare to grow. Okay? How much does it cost an irrigated crop? $800 a hectare, not far from it. Harvesting costs. You have no harvesting costs. We come and harvest and spray. All right, so no labour. Gross margin is about $1,000 a hectare. On irrigation, that's not bad. Lucerne, it's a 12-month crop. You've got to cut it every bloody month. So 15 tonne, 300, minus that, heaps more labour, heaps more machinery, all right? So our lucerne guys looking for a holiday. They're worn out. They can't afford to replace their equipment, so they're looking at another income. Now, it's high risk, the lucerne, you don't always get good value. High volume, much more water. Lower risk, harvest is more flexible, you've got a contracted price, lower water, and no capital equipment. See? It's the capital equipment that's killing most people. Maize silage, if you're dairy farmers or you know any dairy farmers, you know, it's good money, but it costs a lot of money to grow a hectare of silage corn. It costs money to harvest, so it's good money if you can get a silage contract. But all the other, you know, not everyone can grow silage for a dairy farm next door, can it? And sorghum's not too good either. Is that within the ballpark or am I way out?
Yeah, the gross margin on lucerne's a little higher than that.
Okay, that's Hunter Valley lucerne. Come on,
it's not
prime
far.
lucerne.
Yeah, not far.
No, it's within the ballpark.
Yeah.
What about the seed? That's fibre. What about the seed? How's that stack up?
Peter, can you answer that one quickly? Or, I mean, what does it cost to grow in a hectare? Peter, I haven't brought one with me, sorry.
Yeah, look, I can only...
Can I come back to you on that?
Yeah, I think we can cover a few figures on this, but we don't have any hard figures. But the big thing is what your fixed costs are, what your production costs are, less... you get approximately $2.50 to $3 per kilo for seed recovered, which is cleaned and dried. And so you've got to work it out off that.
So $2.50, and I know we used to get a tonne a hectare, so that's $2,500 a hectare. It wouldn't cost you more than $800 a hectare to grow it, so you're making good money there if you can get your tonne. It's graded, clean and dry. Where yields aren't up there as much as we'd like it to. And you tell me what it costs to grow, you know, crop.
Well, how's it compared to canola?
Well, it wouldn't be much different. This is what, other than irrigated, we'd like to, even in Tassie, we do like to irrigate it if we have to, once or twice maximum. 500 hectares.
500 hectares.
There you go. See, I'm saying 800, so I'm always over. See, I'm being more cautious. So what is EIO about? We're a joint venture with Infinite Fibre. It's owned from an overseas company as well. It operates in Europe, South America and Asia as well as Australia, so we've got knowledge. We're existing Hemp's grant. Ecofibre invests $6 million in 10 years on plant or genetic improvement, harvesting, handling, processing, market and production development. Well, we're now at the stage where we've actually got 700 odd tonnes just about to go through the first mill in Australia. We've got it happening overseas, but it's the first time in Australia. EI developed production programs to set up a majority locally owned and run supply network in the most suitable regions in Australia. So what we're doing in the Hunter, we want to replicate elsewhere, and once we set it up, then hand it over to the growers, and we'll be a part share so that you can benefit from our knowledge in the markets and we can all win-win. It's like the cooperative concept or the wallboard or the cotton industry. It's sort of like trying to get the growers to be part of the whole supply chain, not just the dumping it at the gate and saying goodbye to them.
How many hectares in the area to justify a plant?
Good question.
Within 50 k's, did you say?
Yeah, I'd say 100 at the most, but I'll come back to it and I'll answer your question there. So phase one of the startup mill and the crop supply, we need 300 up to 500. Right, 10 tonne a hectare. Need a couple of thousand tonne because all the overhead costs we need. All right, we need to contract growers, and you can't do it more than less than 10 hectares. We're wasting our time. Yeah. So the mill is going to cost $1.5 million. We're harvesting at the end of summer, so it's autumn through winter mill. And our initial products will be things like horse bedding, hydromulch garden products, and then cheap and easy, simple things out the door. So the model is that Ecofibre would like to, do trials and other investigations to show that you need a combination of adequate soils, moisture in the area. You've got to be able to get your 10 tonne in fibre, otherwise we're wasting our time. Suitable agricultural practice and rotations, just the knowledge and skill in good agricultural production. Infrastructure of roads and ability to service it. Transport and logistics, we talked about the distances. And we're talking about setting up long-term, local, regional industries and the associated industries that then flow off from that. And we want to sell locally. You've got to be, once you value add at the mill, you can then cart it 100 or 200 k's to the markets. I'm rushing now, sorry. So we're providing what we're offering, or based on where we're at the moment with the Hunter, we would like to help other areas set up with agronomic support for the licensing and applications, the field preparations, what's needed, the planting, the monitoring of the crop, the time to harvest and providing the header and equipment, and the spraying. If you want to spray, if you don't want to spray, we'll do the old way. We've got both machinery. We credit the seed to you so you don't pay for it until the harvest, or the return, and then EIO harvests and delivers the product to the mill, and EIO pays, we're saying 150 to 180 depending on every situation. But at the moment we're paying 180 and 100, and it depends on some of the quality issues as well. Okay. And I'm going to finish with this one. Why aren't we in Victoria? I'll leave that to someone else to answer later in the day, maybe. But, problematically, we would be here if it was easy to do it. Queensland, we can actually grow almost...
The simple answer, John, is we had a change of government.
Okay,
we can finish on that. We can finish on that note, because basically we're saying we're not here because of the problems. In Tasmania, you can grow opium poppies, which are deadly, but you can also grow, hemp beside it. Hopefully no big issue. In Queensland, we've got a license to grow even high THC lines because we want to cross breed and do breeding, and they'll let us do it because we've got lines from the federal police and all around the world that we can do that. New South Wales, they'll let us do as well. They're pretty easy. It's just a license fee of $300 for the first year and then $200 afterwards. One field inspection and test that we pay for anyway. So. I'm ex-DPI, so I've got mates there. It's all about personal relationships with people. Anything you do, it's all about personal relationships. Once they see it's not a threat, In fact, they see it as an onus how to do all this crap, so the sooner they'd have to go and worry about all this, you know, bureaucratic paperwork, the better. And they'll say, I'll go and do it, you'll be right, and they'll stop all the legislation, you know. That's how this will change, through personal relationships with people saying, yeah, what's wrong with this, you know, they'll then say, it's easy, simple, you know, why are we doing all this paperwork? So, over time, things will change. But there are other states out there doing it better than Victoria at the moment. So I'm going to finish on that, basically. Thanks for your time. Sorry, I went a little bit over time, but hopefully we can do some questions later on.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, Nick.
That was great. We will have time for questions later on, but we'll keep it moving just so we can have a bit of time to circulate among ourselves and chat about what we've seen. There's a lot of information to take in there. So now I'd like to invite Peter Simmul, who is the Secretary of the Tasmanian Industrial Hemp Association. Peter was also a, do you have the thingy? Have you want the lights on? Sorry? Okay, 5 minute break. You want to put the lights on?
Onwards, the hemp industry really kicked off in Tasmania
someone going to
in
make a video
1990
of this
when the
meeting?
Tasmanian Hemp Company was
This is kind of a hard recording, but
just
Hey, if you listen anyway, you could use it now.
that would be fantastic.
They could see the benefits of industrial hemp and they wanted the hemp industry there
It's GD Online.
Anyway, straight away they ran into all sorts of problems, and of course in Tasmania it's the 1971 Poisons Act, and any cannabis sativa plant is a prohibited plant. So they had to get special permits, and eventually they grew a crop and they produced some oil, and with all the rules that this had, then the Department of Health and Human Services came out, had a look at the oil sample and said, oh, well done, you've got this temporary research permit, but you can't do anything with it. So the hemp fibre has got to be destroyed, and the oil, which looks like really nice stuff, is going to be tipped on the ground in our presence right now. So they tipped the oil out, set fire to the hemp. That was the end of the first year of research in industrial hemp in Tasmania, 1990. Then they didn't give up on this. They went to the university and they found that the Australian newsprint mills were using a introduced or imported craft fibre.
Thank you.
And it was in the vicinity of 20 to 30,000 tonnes per annum. And it was a long fibre, and that if this could be substituted for with hemp fibre, then Tasmania would have a hemp industry, and they could build the hemp industry up on the back of the poppy industry, which is also a prohibited substance. So this, the university then got involved in it. The Australian newsprint mills did a funding on it, a 3-year funding project on it, and at the end of this project was run on Forsyth Research Station and the university farm just out of Hobart. And that's when I became tasked with the idea, with the job of doing a watching brief on it, so that the minister could be informed all the time of what was going on, and react to any media activity. So that was for the next 3 years. At this stage, I still didn't have much knowledge of hemp. At the end of that period, in 1994 and 95, all the analysis work was done, and by 1996 it was decided that the idea of tooling up for hemp fibre for strengthening newsprint paper was not an option. It was too expensive, there was too many complications with it, and the whole issue was dropped. The Tasmanian Hemp Company, however, didn't give up. They then started lobbying for more freedom in producing this stuff. And eventually Phil Warner got involved, and Brent Teal got involved, and there were Ian Rochford and Flinders Island got involved, and they had their own angles, and a momentum began to build for relaxing the rules around it. At that point, the Department of Primary Industry was tasked with having a look at cultural management development, and that's when I became involved. So in 1996, I was involved with sowing the first crop on the Forsyth Research Station, and I kept doing that investigating various aspects up until 2010, and I retired in 2010 from the department. I also had an involvement for 3 years with the university in developing research work with vegetable crops as well. Now, the hemp industry has certainly had some challenges, and I think I can quite freely talk about challenges from the point of my personal experiences. One of them is that when you're sowing a crop, you do need a fairly fine tooth, and I always advocated that you do sow in rows. Now, a lot of farmers aren't geared up to sow in rows. There's pluses and minuses. It's a lot easier to drop the seed and cultivate it into the ground or harrow it in or however. If you are going to sow the seed in rows, you need precision equipment, and most importantly, you need to know what the quality of your seed is, and of course your seed soil, the amount of nutrient and the condition of your soil. Now, in one instance, on the Forsyth Research Station, they said to me, see if you can work out what the fertiliser requirements are. So I went into a previously grown potato paddock, and I had a 0 fertiliser application, a 300 kgs per hectare of approximately 15-10-10 parts of NPK, and a 900 kgs per hectare of the 15-10-10 mix. At the end of the season, during the growing season, there was no visible difference, and at the end of the growing season, the yields of fibre and seed were so close that it made no difference. There was no significant differences when you analysed it scientifically. So I didn't get anything out of that project at all, other than if you've got free soil, if you've got free draining soil with reasonable humus content in it, and the fertility will grow potatoes, then you can grow hemp in it with 0 fertiliser. That's what I found out. The next year I grew a seed crop for the Tasmanian Hemp Company. The big issue there was that there was a general attitude that if you're going to grow a seed crop, you put in 25 to 30 kgs of seed per hectare. So you work it out from that. From my perspective, that was no good at all. I knew that there's approximately 45,000 seeds in a hectare, in a kilo, 45,000 seeds in a kilo, and I needed approximately 35 to 40 seed yielding plants at the time of harvest. So to do this, I went back to basic principles. I got the sample of seed that I'd been given. I put it onto a petri dish with a bit of wet paper, and I did a germination test myself. Now, they told me it was 85%. When I did it, it was 75%, which is still not too bad. 75% is good. Then there's the field factor. When you put 100 seeds in the ground, you very rarely get 100 seeds up. And in our case, we usually got, from my own experience, we usually got about 90 seeds up if the seed was viable. And if it was a bit weaker, like this was, you'd probably work on 80 seeds in your 100. So you add that and you build your seed up. Now, I wanted 35 seeds in my hectare, in my square metre. So I know that 40% of seeds will produce male plants. So therefore, I had to load that up by that, plus your field factor, and that became the amount of seed I put into the ground. So you can work that out with a calculator, or in your head if you're very clever. And up came my seed rate. They turned into, a certain number turned into male plants, and I ended up with between about 30 and 40 female plants. Now, these were done in rows. The first thing that happens is your flat weeds start to smother it. Now, hemp seed will grow very quickly, and from the instant it first puts up its petioles, 7 days after that it will double its height, and it will double its height every 7 days after that for 6 weeks. That's very important when you're trying to outgrow the weeds around you. But what it won't do is it won't compete with any flat weeds. If there's a flat weed there, or a weed that's up a bit, and the hemp comes up underneath the edge of it, it will not flourish. It will just be intimidated by that plant, and it will not compete. So hence, the inter-row cultivation comes into it. You put the ticklers on the back of your tractor, and you rip through your paddock, and if you've got your row spacing set right, and usually for seed production, I was working on somewhere around 200, 250, so you're looking at something like that in your row spacing. For a fibre crop, it's different. And then you rip through with the ticklers, that upsets all the weed growth in between, and the hemp in that first 2 weeks will rise above those flat weeds, and it gets away then. After that, it's not so critical anymore. But with a seed crop, because your plant density is low, if you've got any weeds that will compete, they will continue to compete. And things like thistles and some of the mallows and red shank and various weeds that you've got that can get a bit of height or a bit of bulk, they will compete. So that's where the chemical use comes in. So in the following year, I looked at chemical usage, and the only one that I'd heard of that was any good at all was one called bromicide, or bromoxynil. And you can use it at various rates, 500, 750 or 1 litre. I tried them all. It didn't seem to make that much difference, but what did make a difference was the soil moisture content and of course the type of weeds you got. Now it seemed to knock most weeds out, but it didn't knock out red shank, and it didn't knock out any of the nettles.
Mellow?
Sorry?
Didn't knock out mellow?
It knocked out mellow, yeah.
Bromicide?
Yeah. Or it set it back.
Yeah, enough.
It set it back, yeah. And our main weed that was giving us a lot of trouble was the fat hen.
Yeah.
And it set that right back. In fact, in some places it completely wiped it. It was as clean as this table. Yeah. This floor here.
So did you use hammer at all on any of this?
No, I didn't use it. And but what it did do is, and the stage of plant that you apply it at is very important. And I was looking at from sort of 2 to 4 real leaves up to 4 to 6 real leaves, and it was actually knocking out any of the weaker plants. Anything up to 30% it was knocking out. So if you're going to grow a seed crop and you're going to use that, then you need to be aware that you're going to lose plants, and you may lose significant numbers of plants. And soil moisture content had another bearing on it. Now, the other thing I learned by accident was that if you do it as a pre-emergence spray, you don't get anything up. It kills the hemp. And that was a shock to me. As it came through, the residual effect in the soil just completely knocked it out. There was
This
nothing.
is in bromicide?
Yeah. Not a single plant came up. They showed, they were all there in rows and they showed, and then you go out a week later and there's nothing there. Very disappointing result, but a good result. The next thing that happens is, so that you finally do get your crop up and you get your seed and it's all starting to set, and of course hemp, the seed, it sets sequentially, or it ripens sequentially. So the top part of the plant will ripen first, and then gradually down the plant the seed will ripen. And you've got to work out when is the best time to do your harvest. The indicator usually is that the birds will come in and they'll start nipping at the top ones. Once the birds are nipping at those top ones, you've got to become very vigilant. And the other thing too is with your harvester, it's got to be very finely set, because your blowers will blow the seed out if it's a bit undersized or if it's light, if it hasn't filled up properly. And of course that brings in